first of all, Lee, thanks for joining us. Getting towards the end of the week, but our first 3 week reel. I know we had an under 21 games earlier in the week, but a 3 week, how beneficial has it been?
It's been really beneficial over the last 5 weeks. It's been hard to get that 3 week into. Firstly, with what's gone, give the boys some time off their feet because they need it. Also, the 23 game I think will make a good time for the players that needed to play and push to get into the team. And it's been good to be able to get some work into some extra video work throughout the week for preparation for Saturday. So I think it was a little gap that was needed. I keep saying about we enjoy the games, we want the games, but I think just after that period, Saturday, Tuesdays, I think it was good to have this week as a bit of a breather.
And one thing that the Crew fans have noticed, and I think everybody's delighted, is they see Courtney Baker-Richardson giving the signs, the thumbs up and the waves, that he's back out on the grass and back into full training.
Yeah, he's back. No restrictions on his training now. We'll obviously just monitor him and come up with a programme that suits him. But yeah, fit and ready to go for Saturday. Obviously got to manage what he produces on the pitch at the minute. We've also got to think long term with him. But brilliant to have him in the building. I keep talking back in the squad. Sorry, I talk about character a lot, and he's a lively character, and I enjoy being around him and watching how he interacts with the other players. I think he can bring that little bit of extra out of some of the players on the pitch. But delighted to have him back. Really delighted.
It has been a long haul, hasn't it, since he went out? At the end of the year for him. Is he really eager for a return? You mentioned that you've got to manage it, but is he bursting the gut sort of thing?
Yeah, he will be, won't he? We've had good conversations, good chats, and how we're going to look after him. And he's sensible. He knows where he's at, knows where his body's at this minute. The obvious risk is injury, something else if you throw him in too soon after being out for so long, and what type of injury he's had. But no, he's absolutely chomping at the bit to get involved and be around the players. He's been excellent. I spoke about him being around the players. He's travelled to away games like many of the others have. But no, a real boost to have him back as an extra forward to add to. We're playing with 3 forwards mainly all season to pick from. So it's also good for our competition.
And the race is on to be between now and the end of the season, when he gets back in the starting 11, to be the top goal scorer, because what's happened is Dan Ajayi's obviously played most of the games and got towards double figures, but Courtney Baker-Richardson will come back into your setup just 1 goal behind them, so there's a bit of a nice little rivalry to be a top goal scorer in your club.
Yeah, I hope so. We want that competition in various things, not just as forwards, but all over the pitch. As long as they pass the ball to each other still and make sensible decisions when they're in good positions. Look, I'm sure they both are well capable of getting up to the 15 goal mark this season. I back them to do that. What we've got to do is develop as a team, like I keep saying, around the final third. To make them more open chances for those players. Just
picking up on that, your goals for column has gone up in the last few weeks, and it needed to, and it still needs to get better. But has that come through a lot of hard work on the training ground and talks with your more offensive players of getting in the box quicker and more in the box, things like that? Yeah,
there's plenty of work you do, Graham. But what I'm conscious of is just bombarding the players with overload of messages all the time. Don't bombard, overload. I've got a way of, I thought, was to get the messages across and how I want my team to look. This week's been brilliant to be able to implement more of that. But definitely I can see the patterns that we're working on to get up and around the pitch, and that's created more chances. The touches in the box has gone up, crosses into the box have gone up, ball possession's gone up by 10%. So things are heading in the right direction now. As a result, people want wins. I want a couple more wins on the board, 4 more points over the last block. That's just gone, absolutely. But if the things behind the scene weren't backing up some progress in terms on the pitch, then I would be really, really worried. I'm not daft. It's about winning football matches, but you've got to see some progression as well, and I believe we're seeing that.
I'm just going to throw a couple of stats at you in terms of what I think everybody looks at in football, in terms of that thin dividing line between probably being in the lower half of the table and not being in the top half of the table. 14 draws, there's only Lincoln You've got more in the old football league than that, so you're the highest obviously in League Two, and I think you've dropped 19 points from being in winning positions. It's balance, isn't it?
It is balanced. I think it shows that we're good structurally, because of them draws, there's been the 2-2, but they've been nip and tuck games, a lot of them. What we need to do is convert some of them draws into wins, because like you say, that a few more wins can propel you up the league, as well as you're not losing games. You know, sometimes you might lose a game to win a couple, and your points all might be different. So we've got to do that. In terms of losing points from winning positions, that definitely has to change. That definitely has to change. So you're not losing the game. You want to stay on the front foot, score another goal, whatever it may be. But that column's got to change. You know, that's a big throwaway of points, isn't it? From going a goal ahead. And that really does have to change, and it will do. That will do. That will change with the things we're trying to implement within the team in terms of mindset, etc. So yeah, we've lost a lot of points through draws, but it indicates our setup's pretty good. But we can't be throwing away so many points, particularly at home. Some of them have come at home from winning positions, and like I say, 6-7 points more on your tally just makes it look so much different. People think slightly differently in terms of where you're at in the league and where you could go to, and it just really, I've found it a really tight league. You know, you come in and you see some of the results, you can see that one coming, and really tight league where a lot of teams are taking points off each other. And I think it'll be that between now and the end of the season, because there's a lot of teams fighting down at the bottom, and there's still a hell of a lot of teams, even until the bottom half of the division, who are going to be fighting thinking they can get into the playoffs.
Well, the man who brought you into football won't be too happy with you at the moment, Danny O'Grady. There's no doubt about that, because
he's never happy with me.
because he used to link performances, results with fair play, and unfortunately, you've had 4 red cards this season. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, look, well, there's been 2 for violent conduct, and then there's been 2 for young players who are finding their way and learning the trade in the game. Violent conduct is totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. So we'll say there's been 3 since I've taken over. One's for violent conduct. It's unacceptable. There's a lack of discipline. Pride myself on discipline. So it's totally unacceptable. Any red card, all red cards are avoidable. Sean's has never been a red card. So if you look at the 4 fouls that have brought 2 red cards, very, very harsh. Very, very harsh. It's not like my team's running around kicking people. That's not happening. Luke was dealt with severely by me in the club, so that's violent conduct. But 2 young lads, the lad fell over at Crawley. The lad fell over, he actually didn't touch him. So it's not like we're running around kicking teams, because discipline's something I'm big on. We can't have, if you look at 2 blocks of 5 games, 15 equals 15 games, 3 sendings off within that, it's going to take its toll on the team at some point, so we're conscious of it. But again, Connor hasn't ran around malicious and tried to boot somebody. He's got his distances slightly wrong. One got enticed by a heavy touch by the lad, like the Hartlepool lad did against us. And then I thought Sean was really unlucky. He's never been a yellow card. The second one, never been a yellow card. So if there was an issue where the players are running around booting everybody, violent conduct all over the place, surrounding referees, I would think there's an issue. 2 of them have certainly, the 4 tackles that I've merited, 2 red cards, very, very harsh. Violent conduct can't condone, shouldn't be happening.
Well, let's look ahead then. As you get towards the end of your training, your preparation, you're getting ready to go to Sutton for the first visit to that particular club. We've done really well, haven't they? When they've come in the Football League, they made the playoffs, and they're having a right go at current form at the moment. What are you expecting, and what did you see from them?
Yeah, they've taken to league football back into league football really well, haven't they? They recruit really well. The pool of players they're able to get from around where they're obviously based in the world. They recruit good from around there, non-league players, etc. coming into it. So they've got a good pool of players that they're able to recruit from. I definitely think they've evolved as the season's gone on. People were on talking, get ready for this, that, and the other, and watching and going, well, where is that? They're playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of energy. You can tell that a team that are driving in the same direction. So they're on the cusp of it, aren't they, at the minute? So it'll be a real tough game. They're all tough games, saying the same, they're all tough games, aren't they? But we have to be prepared for a battle and a football match. You've got to have to match them in both areas and come out on top, because if you don't, the game can soon be taken away from you.
5 unbeaten though for you going into the game, which is a real positive. Yeah, I know it's not enough wins for you, but you've put them building blocks in place to become a harder team to beat. But here's a situation what you're coming into now. I think the next 4 out of the next 5 games are away from home. You need to improve that away record, don't you? That away form.
Excuse me, we need to improve both, Graham. We need to improve both. Look, we've got tough fixtures coming up, and we're looking forward to. Let's go and hit them head on. Let's not sit back and yes, there'll be tactics that come into the game at certain periods and opposition. Let's go and meet them head on. Let's go and have a right good go at them. And at the end of that block, which I'm talking about a lot, and little blocks of games, let's have a good points tally and progression and what we're trying to do. But we won't be looking at it and going, there and there, that's where they are in the league. I truly believe teams will be looking at us and seeing that we've got some threat in the team. And we'll have to do the homework to stop us as well. So let's go and meet them head on and have a right good go at them. And let's put some extra points on the board and show some of these teams that are higher up in the division that we're also a good team.
We talked earlier about one player that everybody's delighted to have back, Courtney Baker-Richardson. I think everything else is touchwood improving as well. Charlie Colker, Kelvin Mellor and Chris Long as well.
Yeah, Calvin Mellor's been back in full training, so he's available. Perhaps next week. This week will probably be too soon for him. Charlie Colkett's back in training, so he'll be available for selection. Longy's still a few weeks off, but progressing nicely. He's obviously been to St George's Park. David Moo hopefully can rejoin the group next week. But other than that, there's Zach, who's the long-term one, also who's recovering nicely, hitting his markers that he needs to. But it's nice that he's clearing up a little bit. That'll come again, won't it? Obviously, that games again what we've got coming. But it's nice to have that down to a minimum in that physio room. So some headaches. Some players are going to have to be left out the squad. That's the nature of football. Some players are going to be unhappy with that. That's the nature of the game, and we want to improve all the time. So we've got some tough decisions to make in the next 24 hours. Not tough decisions, the right decisions to make in the next 24 hours.
Just one player who has just at the moment emerged is your goalkeeper. We can't go this particular interview without talking about him because I think he's taken a lot of plaudits from the only 5 minutes of his game last week, and of course his full Football League debut a week or so ago at Walsall in James Beale. He must be delighted how he's settled in and he's performed.
Yeah, really pleased for him. He's a very mature young man, only 18. He's got a baby face, hasn't he? But he's very mature with his thinking and his decision making, with what he does. So yeah, we are absolutely really delighted with the way the last 2 games have gone. That save on Saturday was exceptional, exceptional save. And then the one down to the left, right behind it's gone through a leg or whatever, and big hands come out, and you couldn't ask any more of him, young lad. But what he's got to do is continue to work hard. He's got to be scrapping to stay in the team every game, like I asked all the players. So they were really delighted with the way it's gone, and the way we got him into the team. The rewards we've got in the last 2 games.